This is Dana Steele. I lost my mother, Fran Nicholson, to Alzheimer's. I remember being absolutely blindsided by the diagnosis. I thought I knew what it was, but I had no idea where to start, where to go, what to do, what questions to ask, or what was coming. So I posted on Facebook. My mom was diagnosed with early stages of Alzheimer's today. Facebook became my community and my support and my therapy group. If I didn't know what to do, you did. When Mom died, I decided I would tell our story, the good, the bad, even the funny, to try to help families and let caregivers know you are not alone. Speak up, reach out, ask for help, and remember there is no right way or wrong way to do this. I've now told my story for years in a book titled Surviving Alzheimer's with Friends, Facebook, and a Really Big Glass of Wine. In a play, The Woman in the Mirror, which will be running the month of March in Palm Springs, California at the Revolution Stage Company, and now in a podcast. And now I want to hear your story. I want others to hear your story. I want to tell your story. This is #Surviving Alzheimer's. It was just about 15 years ago that I had a speaking event, and the speaker before me was a woman by the name of Honey Leveen, a long-term care insurance specialist. I learned so much from her that day. I'm glad I got there early. I'm glad I heard what she had to say because I learned a lot, and I also had no idea that in just a few short years, it was going to be something that I wish I had known more about for my mom. Since that time, Wonder Husband and I have purchased long-term care insurance policies from Honey. And I got to tell you, it's an amazing peace of mind to have this. Educate yourself. What is long-term care insurance? When should you buy it? Who should have it? And what if you've waited until, well, it's later in life and you realize it is something that you are going to need?
So happy to be involved, Dana.
So I'm just going to jump right in.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to pay for long-term care? It's covered by my insurance and Medicare, right?
Right. The easiest way to debunk that, Dana, is Medicare is an extension of your medical insurance when you're under 65. And medical insurance was put on earth to fix acute medical-related problems that get treated in a doctor's office with a surgery, something with a finite beginning and end diagnosis. And as we know about the U.S. medical system, as soon as they're done with their miracle surgery, they want you out. And if you still need help getting up from chairs or buttoning a shirt or getting pants on, that's not their problem. They fixed your problem in the operating room. So that's where medical insurance and Medicare ends. That's where long-term care picks up.
I keep trying to explain to people the cost. It is unbelievably expensive. We had Mom, I'm trying to remember, in a private care home those last two moves. And I think, I'm trying to think back now, but I know it was $6,000 something a month just to have her care there. And as the care, I think we started around $4,800, $5,000 a month in not even assisted living, in just in a retirement place where she didn't need any assistance. And if you go into other areas of the country, you go into New Jersey, you go into New York, so those are some of the most expensive. You're averaging on the low end $12,000 a month. You can't leave an Alzheimer's patient alone. We're starting to read more and more about cases of elder abuse, and it's not because it's bad people, it's because people have to continue to work to keep a roof over their head and food in their mouths, but they can't leave mom or dad at home alone. So they're literally locking them in a room to keep them from going out or burning the house down. So, all of these people are going, well, gee, Dana and Honey, thanks a lot. But there is something you can do, and that is invest in long-term care insurance. What is it? How much does it cost? How does it work, Honey?
Well, a lot of people have a misconception that it's hideously expensive, but it doesn't have to be. We design and customize these policies around what people need and what people can afford. And it's wise to have a long-term care insurance specialist help you because they not only answer your questions more thoroughly, but they have a fuller, wider array of products. So we have a whole range of solutions at all price ranges now.
And I know I commented in the book, and I think I've seen you write it. I mean, how much do you pay for your phone every month? How much do you pay for cable every month? You start to add these things up. You have Hulu, you go to Starbucks, you've got all of these things. Get your priorities straight. Get your long-term care insurance in place. Make it one of those priorities like shelter, food, transportation, insurance. And then you can go spend money on whatever you want. Make sure. I'm trying to remember what ours is, but I know for the two of us, it's only gone up once. It's like a couple $100 a month, whatever for the two. But we started early on. But it is an incredible peace of mind knowing that when the time comes, and odds are it's going to come for one, if not both of us, our kids are not going to have to go broke trying to figure out how to take care of us. I think that is one of the most selfish things people can say. It's, oh, my kids will take care of me. Why would you ever wish that on somebody? You raise your kids, they get a good job, they get married, they have kids, they start lives of their own, and then all of a sudden they have to stop everything, take care of you, and the expense is just outrageous. So
and the resentment.
Yeah, and the resentment and
And the
guilt
spoiled marriages. Yeah.
Now we're fortunate, we were able to buy the Cadillac of plans. We are covered whether we go into assisted living or we need help, being cared for here at home. But you're right, there are all kinds of different plans, right?
Mm-hmm. Something's better than nothing. Half a loaf's better than none. They'll still make a difference.
One of the excuses I hear is I'm too old, it's too expensive now.
Right.
So address that.
Well, we have solutions now. We have newer products on the market. So there are solutions. There's something called combo LTC, which is often good for people in older age ranges. We have short-term care, which can definitely make a transforming difference.
Now, what is a combo? Because that wasn't available when we bought into these plans.
That's right. These are traditional long-term care, Dana, what you and I both own. It's actually a form of health insurance. So like your health insurance or your Medicare, you have to pay premiums every month or every year. It's like the electric bill. You have the protection, you consume it, you enjoy turning the light on and having electricity, and then it's protection, it's gone. So traditional long-term care is a type of health insurance, and the premiums work the same way as health insurance. You pay until you need it, and then the premium stops. With these combo long-term care policies, Dana, they are technically actually life insurance. They're built on a life insurance chassis. So they're normally paid with one big fat premium, or sometimes they're paid with 5 or 10 years worth of premium and you're done. They have a life insurance element. So part of the premium that you reposition, because you're not really spending it, you're just putting it from one pot into a different new pot. Part of your premium will get siphoned into life insurance. But these products have a lot of pluses. They're good for people with a little bit more compromised health. They're good for single women. They're good for people in their 60s and older.
What are some of the most common? I'm trying to think back of the pushback I get from people. It's too expensive. I'm too young. I'm too old. Can you get it if you're already in any sort of assisted living?
Well, Dana, if you have a car and you smack your car up in a car accident, will you then call State Farm and ask them to insure your vehicle? No. I've had calls, my caller ID said Methodist Hospital ICU, and they're asking me to sell them a policy. So no.
So what is some of the pushback you get on this?
Well, I think the biggest problem is the human inherent nature of us all. We don't want to see bad things. We don't want to think bad things. And many of us lack the ability to imagine 20 and 30 years out in the future, because typically someone's going to own a long-term care policy 20 to 30 years before they'll need to use it. And right now we live such busy lives, and they're with career, with work-life balance, home balance. It's difficult to foresee that far into the future. So these are very common excuses. And I can't even tell you how many thousands of times I've heard there's smoke screen. People just don't want to think about it or discuss it because it's quite unpleasant.
Well, and that's why I wrote this book and I'm doing this
Yeah.
play in the first place, is to get
Yeah.
people to talk about it. There's a line we have coming up from former First Lady Rosalind Carter.
There are only four kinds of people in this world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers.
It's inevitable that you're going to need some sort of care. And a lot of people go, oh, $100, $200, $300 a month. I can't do that right now. Well, it's either that or $5, 6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
$10,000 a month if you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to care for someone in your
Right.
own home, or you want them to
Right.
be in the right place where they're
Right.
safe.
Right. One of my favorite comebacks to it's too expensive. Then I usually say, you know what I think is expensive is if you need long-term care for anything but a short length of time and you don't own long-term care. To me, that's expensive. Because typically someone's going to collect back every dollar they ever paid in premiums within 6 months.
Yeah, we went through $42,000 of our savings. Yes, we're very fortunate we even had savings like that, but it's gone.
Mhm.
It's gone. And mom thought she had plenty of savings. We went through that within the first 6 months. And
Mhm.
then we paid for everything until, she passed. And
Mhm.
people just have no idea. So let's go back to the very beginning before I let you go on this one. And that is what I hear over and over again. I have insurance. I have Medicare. Medicare and traditional health insurance will not cover long-term care.
Nope.
And where does Medicaid fit into all of this?
Medicaid is another word for welfare. So it's having the government pay for your care. So in order for that to happen, and by the way, the government pays for over 50% of all the long-term care in the country in the form of Medicaid, which is welfare. So to qualify for Medicaid, you have to literally spend out your life savings down to official poverty level. In most states, that's $2,000 left to your name. And then you will qualify for a bed in a Medicaid facility. They are nursing homes. They are what you're reading about on the front page of, you're reading about them on the front page of the paper. And I've written about them. You just Google nursing homes and you will come up with millions of hits of lawsuits against nursing. It's because the government literally does not pay facilities as much as it costs that facility to care for these patients. The facilities are in the hole, literally, on their Medicaid reimbursements. They don't hire enough frontline caregivers. We read in the paper with the COVID outbreaks in the nursing homes that they can't even provide personal protection equipment for the caregivers. There aren't enough of them. There's almost 100% labor turnover every year, and it's a vicious cycle. It's a very tragic cycle, and it's all avoidable for many middle-class people if they would have the conversation in advance about protecting themselves.
Yeah, they're horrific places. And when you go back to that, spending your savings down to 2,000, I've heard people say, well, I'll just transfer the money over to my brother or whatever. No, the government goes back and checks. You can't have any assets. You can't have a car. You can't have a house. You can't have savings. You can't have stocks. Literally, your worth can be no more. Your net worth can be no more than 2,000. And if you try to move that, hide that, sell that, believe me, the government goes back and checks and they will find it.
There are certain estate plan, Medicaid specializing attorneys, and they do specialize in what I'm going to call gaming the system. That you can pay them their attorney's fee and they will advise you on how to shield, insulate, disguise, hide your wealth. You can reposition it into other assets and game the system to trick the system and Medicaid into triggering. But the biggest flaw is that the caliber of care is just, it's so
I mean, if you can afford to do all of that, then why would you want to go into a facility like this? Yeah, you can afford long-term care.
And the thing you left out, Dana, is that many states have already begun aggressive estate recovery. So they're going back to the estate after the person passes away, and they're recovering the cost of care that way.
Coming up, we actually stopped to grab coffee with Honey and her husband near a retirement community they've moved to in Florida to hear more about senior living options and the particular place that they're living in. We are all going to get older, so we might as well have as much information as we possibly can. I'll be back in a minute with more valuable information from Honey Leveen. This podcast is brought to you in part by the book Surviving Alzheimer's with friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine. When Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I posted it on Facebook. What started as a way to let friends and family know Mom had Alzheimer's turned into a support system for me, and from that turned into a support system and a community. The first half of the book is the Facebook post, and that's to give people a sense of you're not alone. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's okay to laugh at inappropriate things. It's okay to cry. It's okay to say bad words, drink wine, and throw things. The other half of the book is very important resources for caregivers. The one thing I want you to take away is you never know. Love your family. Love everyone. Take every adventure. Do everything, but also make sure you have everything ready to go and you're organized in the background, so that when all is said and done, you have lived today. I wish I had known. And if I wish I had known, I think there's other people that wish they could know what's coming next. Surviving Alzheimer's with Friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine is available at Amazon in paperback and Kindle versions. And now, back to the podcast, Surviving Alzheimer's with Dana Steele. You know, there are more and more senior living companies that are finding ways to make the last years of a life happy, social, comfortable, and safe. Honey Leveen, my long-term care insurance specialist, educates us on how these places work as we sit on a Starbucks patio in sunny Fort Myers, Florida. Tell me what a
CCRC.
What is that?
It's a continuing care retirement community where you move there vital and independent, and you have a resort environment, and all the stress is pretty much lifted off your shoulders. You've got amenities everywhere, and then you do what's called aging in place. And you can progress from that independent living onto assisted living. If necessary, if you have an acute event, you go to the on-campus medical center. We have a recovery for rehab. We have doctors there 24 hours a day. And we have a nursing home if you need.
Yeah, but you're vibrant. I mean, you were kayaking and doing all this stuff.
I still am.
Okay.
I'm better than ever.
When you moved in, did you just feel like, oh my God, we're old people now?
No. Well, there is some ageism because the cohort is a real distorted cohort. The mean age there, I think, is 85 because it's such a high quality lifestyle. We have disproportionate number of centenarians there, and the mean move-in age is 75, so it's a lot of gray hairs. So yeah, but if you want to see young people and more homogeneity from humanity and not all mostly Caucasian, then you just go off campus. So yeah.
So no regrets.
Not a single regret.
No. I was telling Charlie, one of the most common things we hear from people is, I wish I'd moved there earlier.
Because it does take all the stress off
of it.
Oh, yeah.
And you have longer to play. Like, we've been there 4 years. All we do is play.
Well, when you live outside of a CCRC, you're inured to certain stresses. Like, you got to mow the lawn, and the toilet broke, and this and that, and and there's just traffic, Houston traffic. And then all this stuff is lifted. You don't know until you get there. I can describe it to you, but until you experience it, it's a total lifting of stress.
It's like vacation living, but...
Yeah.
It is. It's also congregate living. If you need something, you're next door to your neighbors. You've got so much more interaction than in what I would call the real world. So your neighbors are going to help you. You won't have to ask them. They'll just offer... and it goes on and on and on. It's just
and they're saying
culture.
that you need more social interaction to keep your brain
That's right.
functioning. And we've all become this, this society where just stay inside and we don't talk to anybody, and our partner dies and we're alone.
Here, you're running into your neighbor.
Yeah, that's all that kind of nourishment is there, and that's something they cannot put into sales brochures. But I've
what about
gone
cost,
about it.
though? What about cost? I mean,
it's cheap.
If you add in the cost of your health club and your monthly security monitoring and the repairs and everything else, it's probably the same cost as living.
And you said,
elsewhere.
I mean, you don't even have to change a light bulb.
Not if you don't want to. You don't have to hang pictures if you don't want to.
Is there on-site grocery stores?
Or it's right off campus.
Okay. So they call it a campus.
Yeah, because it's the best way to describe it. It's a blend, or it's the best of the best year in the college dorm, your most fun in summer camp, a small liberal arts campus, and Mayberry. It's all those things.
I love it. And the food? Do they have restaurants, or do they have a...
Yeah, we have exceptional restaurants. I mean, they're underpriced. The value is above what you find in the outside world. And they custom cook, and the service is exceptional. You know?
During COVID, when it was hard to get people, chefs were waiting up on tables. Everybody does everything.
They're
necessary.
cross-trained.
Yeah.
And when they hire, generally when a department hires somebody, the whole department interviews them to make sure that they're going to work as a team.
Yeah. People smile.
And they're going to like each other.
They're selected
Everybody
for that.
smiles. Everybody says hello.
Now, you've had long-term care insurance since you were 37 years old.
Yeah.
Do you still need that in this place? Will
Yes,
it apply
it's still
to it?
useful.
Do you use it? Okay.
It can still be useful, although if you need the full care continuum, if you need to move from independent living into assisted living, then you don't uppay anything. The same monthly maintenance you were paying in your apartment we have freestanding, very luxurious homes. We have all ranges of the economic spectrum. You don't pay any more than you were paying independently, but there are services and amenities and access that owning long-term care can afford you that the CCRC won't pay for.
And you can still use it in your CCRC.
You can, because there are always extraneous costs when you have long-term care. And also CCRCs, I've never seen a one that pays for home health care.
And you are at one called Shell Point. What are some of the other ones?
You know, we've never...
One called Cypress Cove.
Well, this is here in
Cypress
Fort
Cove,
Myers,
4
but
miles away.
we haven't shopped out the competitors. Some of them are chains, and we had those chains back in Houston, but we haven't felt the urge. I mean, I did price up CCRCs in Houston, and this one is a fraction of the cost of, and it has more amenities than any. If we could have stayed in Houston, because we are first world people, we availed ourselves of first world symphony, art, you name it. I love the freeways.
And we like diversity too.
Yeah, the diversity.
Shell Point is really white.
Yeah, it's very homogeneous.
We have one African American couple who's moved
They're
in.
starting to move in, and we welcome them. But you know, it's homogeneous. But
So it's a little bit of a trade-off, I guess, for...
it's the advantages far outweigh.
Yeah.
You know, so
And you're in sunny Florida, so...
yeah.
Except
So,
when you weren't.
but then when we weren't, they got us back to sunny Florida expediently and stress-free.
That's important.
We have friends who live outside of Shell Point, and they're pooled. They didn't suffer catastrophic stuff, but they're arguing with contractors to repair tiles and leaking pools and all that stuff. They're arguing. They're getting denials of claims, and it's
You've
taking
not
its
had
toll.
to worry about any of it.
Not a thing.
All taken care of.
There's a
So
lot to be said for that.
there's a lot to be said for that. And, you know, anybody a scientist that specializes in aging will say that you need stimulation. Well, I'd rather get my stimulation from resuming my artistic career or resurrecting my Spanish by meeting for Spanish over lunch. There's plenty of things I can do to enrich and engage that don't involve getting aggravated, you know.
All right, Honey Leveen, the queen of long-term care insurance.
There she
Are you
is.
still doing that?
I am still working. I'm just and now I have more time to dote on clients because I'm not out there at the professional events. I'm just still taking referrals. So I'm still at
And
the
is
top
it
of my
still-
game.
Is it still a good purchase?
Well, now traditional long-term care, not as much as before, but to trade that off, we now have long-term care solutions available. We have a wider portfolio of solutions than we did when we bought our own policies. So there are reasonable solutions out there.
Final words of advice? Oh, wait.
Honey has children of clients from 30 years ago who now approach her.
Well, I'm telling you, it was to buy that. I was 47. Charlie was 54. It was an immediate peace of mind, an incredible peace of mind to know we had that. So, final words of wisdom, parting words of wisdom as we get back on the road for hashtag One Planet, 1 year. Final words of wisdom from Honey Leveen.
Think in advance and be honest about what can happen in the future.
Much of the legacy we leave may be measured by how honestly we've dealt with life's most painful truths. Often such truths are the most obvious, yet hardest to see clearly. Relationships don't suffer as much, and outcomes are better. The money people collect from long-term care insurance provides them with dignity, choices, access, and options they would not have otherwise had.
He's right. This is a good time to talk about long-term care insurance, something that most people won't talk about. I always learn so much from that woman. Thank you, Honey Leveen. Bottom line, have a plan. Not only where and how you will live as you get older, but who's going to pay for it, or how are you going to pay for it? Don't burden your family because of your lack of planning. Yes, long-term care, any sort of plan is going to cost you some money, and the older you get, the more expensive it will be. But odds are you're going to need something, and your plan should not be to burden your family with your care. Oh, my daughter's going to take care of me. My son's going to take care of me. That is not a plan. And you know what? Surprisingly, a third of my podcast audience for this podcast, Surviving Alzheimer's, are in their 20s. So I'm just talking to them right now. Yeah, you. Start putting a few dollars away now for your retirement and your elder care. Just a few bucks, just a couple of bucks from every paycheck if you can. If you do it now, you will have incredible peace of mind and quality of life later on. Start talking about this with your family and even your friends now. We need a much better system in the U.S. and around the world to care for our aging population. But until someone comes up with that plan, it's up to you to have the plan. I'll be back. Hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's is brought to you by The Woman in the Mirror, an on-stage manual disguised as a dark comedy for navigating Alzheimer's with love, laughter, and a little bit of wine. You can help bring the play to the Revolution Stage Company in Palm Springs, California in March with a tax-deductible donation to our grant fund. There's a link in this episode's description and on our website at survivingalzheimerspodcast.com. It is my love letter to caregivers. Remember, when it comes to Alzheimer's, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. Now, back to more of Surviving Alzheimer's. As I wrap up this episode of hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's, we are just coming off of Thanksgiving and heading into the holidays. And if there is a caregiver that you need to shop for, here are some ideas. Maid service, lawn service, grocery delivery, pre-made meals for their freezer or a meal service. Take over for a few hours so they can get some things done and just have some time to themselves. Even better, send them to a nice hotel for a few nights of pampering and you take over the care or hire a good home health service. Most importantly, just say thank you. Say, I see you and I acknowledge what you are doing and everything you are sacrificing. A handwritten note, anything, just a little acknowledgement will go a long, long way. Thanks again for listening. Please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. That certainly helps us. Thanks to Honey Leveen for being a part of the podcast. And if you'd like to tell your story or you have some valuable information that I should pass on to people who are caregivers or may be caregivers in the future, you can contact me. All those links, all that contact information is in this episode's description. Subscribe. Thanks for listening to hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's. The podcast is produced by Blue Squirrel Productions and JFA Entertainment. Dana Steele, me, executive producer. It's brought to you by the book Surviving Alzheimer's, with friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine, available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. You'll be able to see the play, The Woman in the Mirror, in Palm Springs, California at the Revolution Stage Company in March of 2024. The original music in the podcast, I Remember, was written and is performed by Jeannie Cunningham. If you have questions, something you'd like to share, or you'd like to tell me your story, you'll find the corresponding links in this episode's description. And do me a favor, please subscribe and share this podcast with your friends and family. And as Mom always said, I love you, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck.